So in recent years, a lot of American and British television shows have gained a lot of popularity in India. चाहे वो Friends हो, Seinfeld, Office, Breaking Bad, Game of Thrones, I can go on and on. And I can see this show being next in line to do that. Maybe अगर कोई बड़ा YouTube channel इस show के बारे में बात करे, it spreads due to word of mouth, catches fire, and takes over social media. It could very well happen. But I checked online and nobody has really done that. So I thought, why not make a video about it? And the show that I'm talking about, which in my view is the greatest of all time, is The Sopranos. Now the question is, how do I sell it? How do I manage to convince you to watch this? Now मैं तुम्हें कह सकता हूँ कि show के Wikipedia page पे जाओ and read critical reception, which says that it's widely regarded as the most groundbreaking and greatest television series of all time. And not only that, अगर तुम Google पे जाके check कर लोगे कोई भी list of the best TV shows ever, Sopranos usually tops the list. या फिर at worst it's in the top 3. But then again, critical reception does not always equate to quality entertainment. So what I'll do is I'll just give you my thoughts, talk about it for a couple of minutes, and then you decide if it's worth watching or not. Now, सबसे पहली चीज़ है, it introduced the first anti-hero protagonist to television in Tony Soprano, portrayed by the legendary James Gandolfini. Even though आज के लिए normal हो गया है, but before this show, people did not give television the same respect they did to film. It just wasn't the place for complex and cinematic storytelling. And James Gandolfini's role is ridiculously challenging. He constantly had to switch between being dominant, vulnerable, animated, subtle, happy, depressed, miserable, furious, you name it. And he also brought immense charisma to what was actually a very questionable main character. And the response was so massively positive that it transformed him, to his own surprise, into a massive sex symbol. And to say that Tony Soprano was influential would be an understatement. It led to the creation of iconic beloved characters like Don Draper from Mad Men, Dexter, and even Walter White from Breaking Bad, as confirmed by Vince Gilligan, the creator of the show himself. So the point is, all of these anti-heroes owe their legacy, at least in part, to the GOAT. But again, अगर तुम्हें कोई परवाह नहीं about the history of television, about how Tony's character laid the foundation for the great set of anti-heroes that followed, then how about how insanely multi-layered the show is? It's not a typical mob show. We get to see Tony Soprano talk to his very attractive therapist, which make for some very compelling scenes. We get to see his struggles as a father, son, husband, and leader. And mental health एक huge topic है इस show में. Seeing how these fucked up characters battle depression is fascinating. And अगर मुझे कोई scene दिखाना है which showcases what I'm saying perfectly, then it would have to be a scene from season 1 between Tony and his nephew Christopher. Now scenario here is that Christopher is dealing with a terrible identity crisis that has led him to some terrible choices like digging up a dead body, shooting a civilian in the foot in broad daylight. Now understandably, Tony, who's the mob boss, is extremely pissed at his nephew. But इस सब के बावजूद, Tony keeps his anger in check, surprisingly manages to be sensitive and asks him,
What the fuck is wrong with you?
Chris isn't exactly a genius.
I managed to get the drop on him.
But when he talks about his problems,
No, Tony. It's like just the fucking regularness of life is too fucking hard for me or something. I don't know.
it sounds relatable, a weirdly accurate description of existential dread. And the thing about this scene is both of them are depressed, and Tony relates to Christopher and even tries to bond with him. But as we all know, especially when it comes to us men, there is a stigma around mental health, and they're in the goddamn mafia. So when he asks him,
Well, I'm just thinking maybe you're depressed.
and
You ever think about, you know,
Fuck no.
good. Imagine those fucking losers blowing their skulls all over the bathroom.
It's fucking pathetic.
instead of opening up to each other, they share a cheap laugh, try to maintain their tough guy persona, but the truth is quite apparent, and you're left there thinking, damn, what just happened? These scenes are so well written and so well acted that it makes you empathize with these murdering psychopaths. And तुम्हें पता है शो के बारे में एक और amazing चीज़ क्या है? It's widely touted as one of the best dramas of all time, which it is, but you can easily call it a sitcom. It is that fucking funny. And the humor makes the show not take itself too seriously, which is good. The meme potential is absolutely off the scale. Speaking of comedy, Polly is one character that I'm sure will be the king of memes. One can make an entire video about this oaf. And तुम्हें पता है इसका signature क्या है? He tells a joke that everybody laughs at.
How about you? It might be your first blowjob.
Yeah, of course.
How long did it take for the guy to come?
Turns to the person right next to him.
Did you hear that? I said, you remember your first blowjob? He said, yeah. I said, how long did it take for the guy to come?
And then repeats the entire fucking thing word for word. And here's Albert doing something similar.
Imagine getting a facelift
1 week later, you're in jail. Can you imagine that? You get a facelift, and 1 week later, you're in jail? Anyway.
And of course, since everyone in this show is an absolute hypocrite, Paulie has the audacity to make fun of him for repeating himself.
Fuck that fucking parakeet.
Hear what I said, Tom?
Fuck that fucking parakeet.
Can you imagine that?
Fuck that fucking parakeet.
And iske alawa bhi, the way most people talk in this show is hilarious. They throw random big words, phrases to sound smart, even though most of them aren't, and it is comedic gold. And my favorite character who does this is Carmine Jr.
Some of you know I've had 9 pictures under my subspecies. Much like a child, a film has many parents. That is to say, many individuals who act like parents, or that by aversion, the film is their baby.
And इस सब के अलावा लास्ट पॉइंट टू वाइंड दिस अप, तुमने रियलाइज किया होगा जब भी हम कोई अमेजिंग फिल्म देखते हैं या फिर किसी टीवी शो का एक सुपर्ब एपिसोड, वी जस्ट डोंट हॉप ऑन टू द नेक्स्ट एपिसोड इमीडिएटली. इट takes us a while to fully digest what has happened. We are moved by it. And Sopranos make countless episodes which make you feel that way. It's the best show of all time in my view, and I would highly recommend everyone to at least give it a shot.